Sound check.
I'm clear.
Loud and clear.
So you understand.
I can hear you good. This is JT.
You know, my position with them, but when you get
Hollis, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I just have a question. This is Keith Stewart from Mississippi.
Hey, Keith.
I'm doing good. How are you?
All right. What's up?
Well, I just have a question. Of course, I saw the email that was sent out the other day talking about since everybody hadn't been able to have the meetings, that there was going to be partial to some refunds of membership fees, et cetera, et cetera. But I'm a satellite member, so I can't physically come to anything. But my concern is I haven't received any kind of statement or invoicing or notification of paying my membership fees, and I don't want to be lax on that. So I don't know if you can address that tonight, or if you need to look into it or what.
Keith, we appreciate you. That refund does not apply to you. That applies to local members who pay
Right.
like 3 times as much, as more than 3 times what you do. And
Right.
the reason they pay that is because it includes 9 gourmet meals every year. So what they were doing is refunding those fees for the people who had paid that full fee for the local members. Regarding you getting up to speed, I will look into that, make sure you get your proper notification here just as quickly as I can get on top of that, probably tomorrow.
Well, aren't the dues every May? Isn't that correct?
The Manacashi dues are rolling, so you actually pay on the anniversary of your join date. You pay once a year on the anniversary of the day you joined.
Oh, okay.
Once you pay once, that's the day that's the due date for you forever.
Okay. Well, I do know that I should have paid a membership fee by now, and I have not. So I don't want to be lax on my part. I
appreciate that. I will look into that and make sure that you get done appropriately.
Okay. I know this sounds weird, but I appreciate it.
All righty. Okay. Welcome. If you can hear my voice, you are present at the July 2020 lockdown special OMG. Couple quick tips. It works best if you have a wired headset for audio. We ask everyone to please mute your mic unless you're speaking. And please no oral questions during the speaker presentations. If you do have a question, type your question or your comment into the chat, and our chat moderator, who is always on call, will pose questions to the speakers at appropriate times. It seems like everybody's learning about Zoom and GoToMeeting and all this technology as we're all locked down and learning this stuff. Well, frankly, we've been doing this for over 4 years now. We've held a meeting every month for over 2 years. We actually missed one because it fell right. The first Wednesday fell right on a holiday. I believe that was July 4th, 2 years ago. Not positive. But we made that up because we actually held 2 meetings last month, and we may actually have 2 meetings this month. So stay tuned to see if something comes up soon. Now, our purpose here is to provide the chapter experience to home inspectors who, for whatever reason, find it impractical to attend physical meetings. So we leverage the technology to present the way we are here this evening, with serious significant advantages being that we don't have to travel to meetings and we don't have to pay travel expenses for top name speakers from anywhere in the world, and we are taking advantage of that this evening. The downside is that we don't get a chance to actually press the flesh the way we'd like to. A lot of the chapter experience is just the interaction, the camaraderie, the sharing with one another. Now, we do have a meeting after the meeting, a short social event after what we just call the meeting after the meeting, and everyone here is welcome to attend that. We'll more on that a little bit later. But something just to help us get to know each other just a little bit better. If you can find the attendee list and find your name on the attendee list. So if you're looking for an icon, it's those two little people, those two little white people. Looks like maybe two pawns on a chessboard. It's got a 36 next to it right now. That 36 could change any second to 37 if someone else joins. But if you just click on that, then find your name, scroll down, find your name, and then to the right of your name, you'll click that down arrow and then edit your name to include the state that you're from. Now, we ask everybody to do that, tell us where you're from, and then also first and last name. I see a couple of people got the message that we've asked people to give us your first name and your last name. I see a Bill there. I don't know who you are or where you're from. So, Bill, if you would please give us your first name and your last name, and anybody else who's just in there with a nickname, please tell us who you are and where you are from. You're all welcome, but we do require that you identify yourself. So, in order to keep track of attendance, we have a sign in and sign out process. Most of you already seen it, and ask you to just be patient while we go over those details, introduce new people to it. What's going to happen is if you have registered in advance, you must register in advance to take advantage of this and get a certificate of participation. But if you've registered in advance, in a couple of seconds, we're going to send everybody a text message. You will reply to that text message. You won't reply to it. You'll tap a link in the text message and enter a token in the field in order to check in, and then we'll do it again at the end. But you do have to be registered in order to do that, and have your smartphone close by. So here's our agenda for this evening. We'll do the sign in that we just talked about. For those so we're going to do it for the people who already understand it. We'll go ahead and do that. And then while they're doing it, we'll do a quick demo for the people who haven't been here before. Then we're going to ask Mike to come up with Mike's monthly minute talking about how we distinguish gas furnaces. Then we'll give people a second try for the people who weren't registered before but are registered now. We'll give you a second chance at the sign in, and then I'm going to show you a trick that'll make things a little bit easier for you if you add your name to our list and get on our mailing list. Not only will you receive notifications of upcoming events, but you will also find it easier to register for individual events because you will then be able to log in and not have to fill out that stupid form every month. And once we've been through all of that, we will then invite our my good friend Reuben Saltzman to talk to us about internet marketing. We've done a lot on technical topics here for the last 4 years, but there's some business aspects that really are important. If you're going to succeed out there, you really need to know how to generate business. And Reuben has cracked that nut, and he's willing to share a little bit of his wisdom with us this evening. So we're grateful for that. Then after Reuben's done, we'll sign out. And then, as I said before, we will convene the meeting after the meeting, where we'll invite people to press the flesh and brainstorm a little bit. So with that, why don't we go ahead and send the sign in token, which is fire. You should be, if you are registered, you should be receiving a text message. And when you get that text message, you will tap on the link in the text message and do not reply to the text message. Tap the link in that text message, and that should open a field. You may have to scroll a little bit to find the input field, and then just type the word fire, FIRE, into that field, and that will get you going. Submit, and you should get a green confirmation that you have succeeded. So we'll do that. So while people are doing that, I'm going to take a quick do a quick demo of what we're talking about. So here's the website. If you've never been here before, you'll want to go to the website and just click on cyberashy.org and just click on the calendar link, which will open this. And you'll just register. You register as a guest. If you haven't already joined, you'll register as a guest. You'll have to fill out the form. Here it is right here. You fill out this form, and once you've filled out that form, you are then registered, and you will then receive the text messages. And mine just came through, so let me, I tap on the link. I got the text. I tap on the link. I finally tap on the token field. I type FIRE, sign in, and I get a green confirmation that says you have been signed into the event. I close that, and I'm good to go. So that's what everyone should be doing right now, or have just finished doing, while we invite Mike Conley to talk to us a little bit about gas furnaces. Mike, are you ready to go?
I'm ready to go, Hollis. Thank you.
Sean, are we getting him plugged in and turned on? Okay, so Mike, Mike is amazing. He's been, when we first started talking about doing this stuff 4 years ago, it was 4.5 years ago, he offered to do something every month. And I thought, yeah, we'll see how long that lasts. And wouldn't you know, he has come up with a different topic every month for 48 sessions and good information. So let me give you Mike Conley.
I fooled you, Hollis. I stuck with it.
You did. We appreciate you.
All right. Tonight we're going to talk about gas furnaces, predominantly the high-end ones, the high-efficiency ones. And keep in mind, folks, that this is anywhere from a 6 to 8 hour class, and we're going to talk about it for about 10 minutes. So,
well, Mike, you got plenty of time here. We don't have a sponsor, so you can go for the 20 minutes if you want.
Well, okay, but I didn't do my PowerPoint laid out that way. That's
okay,
fine.
That's fine. You got plenty of time. Take your time.
Okay, great. If that's the case, Hollis, if somebody wants to ask questions while I'm speaking, I'll be glad to answer those.
Okay.
In any event, let's get rolling. We're going to be talking about high efficiency furnaces and venting. And we're going to hit this pretty lightly because of the time factor and the fact that it's a complicated subject that takes a lot more time to really teach. But first, we should be able to tell the difference among the three being the low efficiency, the mid efficiency, and the high efficiency. And here are some examples, and you can see they look quite similar when you're looking at just the box. So if you're walking into a basement or you're walking into a house and they have one of these, first time visualizing it, you may not know exactly what it is you're looking at. You got to delve into it a little bit more. But as some of you may know this already, the low efficiency means it's 70 to 78% efficient, which is pretty low. And the mid efficiency means it's 80 to 85% efficient, which is a little bit better. And the high efficiency, which is what everybody's really striving for these days because of the cost of fuel, is anywhere from 90 to 97% efficient. Now, there are some products out there that actually hit 98%, but there are very few of them and they're relatively expensive. So anywhere from 90 to 97 is pretty common in this category. There are some examples of low efficiency furnaces. You can see where they're getting their combustion air right from the front cover right here. Same thing with this one. They're getting their combustion air through this slot, and that's going to be living space air they're getting it from, which is not really considered a good avenue for taking in air air should be coming in, both combustion and makeup air should be coming from the outside, which is fresh air, not from the inside. And if you do the math on these, if you calculate how many cubic foot of air is required to combust 1 cubic foot of gas, you're going to find that you're going to have some pretty large rooms to deal with, which in the old days when they built these big houses had that capacity perhaps, but not so much anymore. Typical 2,000, 2,500 square foot house is not going to be anywhere close to the amount of combustion needed for these furnaces, which is why you need an outside source now. That's pretty mandatory. Now, keep in mind that these low efficiency furnaces might still be around. People might still be using them. They have an average lifespan of 15 to 18 years, but I've seen them, I wouldn't say a lot, but I've seen them regularly over the years at 25, 30 years old, and they're still chugging along. Are they efficient at that age? No, they're not. You can forget about that 70 to 78%. They're probably more like 55 to 60% efficient at that point, mostly because of their age, but they're still around. You're going to run into them. Here's some examples of mid-efficiency furnaces. Mid-efficiency furnaces don't rely on environmental air to move back and forth. They have an inducer fan, which causes the product's combustion to roll up through this sealed compartment right here, which is the flue. So this fan, any product's combustion being developed down here, this fan is going to push this up, this sealed compartment, and outside and away from people. And that's one of the big differences between a low efficiency and a mid efficiency is the induction of the products of combustion being blown out. Here's a close-up. We have our monoports here, which is where the combustion takes place. In the old days, very common for home inspectors to try to inspect these in a house. And I'm not sure if anybody's still doing that anymore. Perhaps they are, but it's become a big liability. So I know for a fact a lot of inspectors discount inspecting the burner system because they're real difficult to see completely, and they're dangerous if they get damaged, which they will over time. Comparison between a mid and a high efficiency furnace. Here we have a single heat source. We have the blower blowing air across the heat exchanger right here, and it's got one heat exchanger. So what isn't being utilized as internal heat is going to be blown up through the flue, which is wasted heat, and that's a heat we have to pay for every month. The inducer fan is typically going to be a fixed speed. They got a single stage valve, gas valve here. 80% gas usage efficiency. That means 20% is being lost or blown out and not utilized, but we have to pay for anyway. And single speed blower motors. In a mid or high efficiency, in a high efficiency, we have two heat exchangers. We have the primary and the secondary. So any unused energy utilized by the primary heat exchanger is being recaptured and reheated with a secondary heat exchanger. So that's what increases the efficiency. We have a precise modulating gas valve, a variable speed inducer motor. It'll adjust itself automatically depending on the use of the furnace, and a variable speed blower motor. So all of these put together add up to much better efficiency. Here's a comparison between a conventional and a high. We have a single serpentine heat exchanger here. And the reason they make them this shape is because they want to increase the surface area of the heat exchanger in order to utilize and capture more of that heat being generated when the monoports are burning. We have a single gas exhaust flue, single stage blower usually. In this case, the filter's on the bottom. Whereas with a high efficiency, we have two heat exchanger, the red and the blue. We have an induced fan pushing products of combustion out through the exhaust. We have a condensate line because we are utilizing more of the heat that usually escapes. That lowers the temperature of the products of combustion. And when you lower that, it wants to condense on the inside of the exhaust pipe, and that causes, like our air conditioner working, causes condensation. That condensation has to be addressed, and they do that with a condensation drain line, which has to terminate someplace where there's an appropriate drain or something that doesn't cause flooding. Here's our primary serpentine heat exchanger, and then our secondary heat exchanger right adjacent to it. They sure look pretty when they're brand new. What should we be looking at? The heating equipment should be part of our evaluation. We have to identify what the energy source is, of course. That's our minimum standards. And anybody who has state requirements for licensing, that's probably going to be a state requirement as well. We want to check out the operating controls, make sure they're functioning properly. We want to evaluate the distribution system, make sure that's copacetic, working okay. And then we want to look at the vents, the flues, the dampers, and the chimneys if they have them. We are not required to look at the heat exchanger itself. Again, I mentioned them a minute ago because of the exposure to being sued over them. We don't have to evaluate gas logs or grills or stoves. We don't have to evaluate space heaters or humidifiers or air purifiers, heat reclaimers, or solar heating devices. Some of you folks might actually do those things, but that's going to be a business decision you made and not a requirement. For example, I do solar panels all the time in my area because I live in a state where there's a lot of sunshine, so solar really works well. Safety devices for high efficiency furnaces. We have our serpentine heat exchanger. We have our secondary heat exchanger. We have our inducer fan. We have our variable speed blower. We have our combustion air. This is an outside air source. Now, outside can be attic source. The attic is considered an outside airspace for this purpose. So you can get your air from the attic, or you can get your air from the actual outside outdoors. So we have our combustion air, number one. We have our exhaust vent, number two. Those are products of combustion being exhausted. We have our heat switch right here, and that shuts down the furnace if the flame rolls out of the front of the burner compartment. That was one of the major issues with a low efficiency furnace, is that you would have flame roll out, and especially when they got some age on them, and it was very difficult to control that. That was number three. Number four is our pressure switch right here, differential pressure switch. Make sure the induced fan, draft fan is running and that the vent isn't blocked. These are all safety features. We have our condensate drain line attached here because the products of combustion are going to be much cooler. And as a consequence, condensation is going to occur on the inside of that pipe. Gravity is going to make it drip back down, and that condensation line is going to take it to the reservoir right here. If there's not a readily available drain, then a reservoir is used. Blower cover interlock prevents the furnace from running if the lower compartment door is off. Many inspectors open these things up, and in order to make them run, they have to sidestep the switch by putting tape over it or some kind of mechanism to make it think that the cover is still on. Condensate reservoir, and our drain line going to a drain or some appropriate place like outdoors or someplace where it's not going to cause damage. Pretty straightforward when you see it inside view. So what makes it high efficiency? There are basically three types of furnaces that are typically found in most homes. Conventional furnace, as I mentioned earlier, 80% steady state, 60% seasonal. Ooh, that's new terms. Mid-efficiency furnace, 80% steady state, 80% seasonal. And high efficiency furnace, 90+% steady state, 90+% seasonal. Okay, so what does steady state mean? Refers to how much usable heat is created when the furnace is running. Conventional gas or oil furnaces have steady state efficiencies of roughly 80%. What does that mean? When the furnace cycles on, 20% of the heat that is generated goes up the flue, while the remaining 80% heats the house. That's a big chunk of change right there, and it's also a big heat loss. When the furnace cycles off, the cool down and house heat goes up the chimney via the flue. Picture this: when your furnace turns on, there's a volume of cold or environmental air in the ductwork that has to be pushed out before the heat reaches the individual rooms. And the same is true when the furnace turns off. You've got all this heated air in the ductwork that is no longer being pushed by the fan motor because the furnace shut off. So that's wasted heat. That's air that's been heated that can't be utilized in the living space. And what it's going to do is just sit in the ductwork and cool down. We're trying to recapture that heat. That's the whole point.
Hey, Mike.
Yeah.
I had a question about combustion air.
Yes.
Can combustion air come from the crawl space with the high efficiency furnace installed in the crawl space as well?
I can't answer for the whole country, but there are some states, Florida being one of them, where you're not allowed to do that. But there might be some states where they do allow it. It's going to be a local decision. What happens in your state? Hello?
I think it's okay in Maryland. I'm not positive.
Okay. So you need to check what the regulations are in what the regulations are in the state you're inspecting. So what does seasonal mean? Seasonal efficiency adds those off-cycle losses to the rating to determine just how efficient a furnace is. Off-cycle, like cool down and startup times, residual air in the ductwork, escaping in-house air up the flue, heat that escapes up the flue, etc. Some of the things I just mentioned a second ago. So taking all that into account, a conventional furnace rated at 60% seasonal means if you spend $1,000 a year on fuel costs, $400 is going up the flue, and the rest is going into the house. That's a lot of money. 60% heating, 40% wasted. High efficiency is trying to utilize that escaped heat or unconventional heat and recycle it back into the home so you're getting more bang for your buck. Here's an alternative. Now, this is a very limited approach because most ductwork is going to be in the attic someplace, or if you're in a condo, it might be in a drop ceiling. But the point is, this only works when the ductwork is in the conditioned space. And I mentioned earlier that we have this heated air, this heated static air inside the ductwork. Once the furnace shuts off, that heat just sits there because it's not being pushed through anymore. So that's wasted heat because it's not being utilized in the living space. But with vinyl ductwork, when the furnace turns on, and it works for air conditioning too, but when the furnace turns on, the ductwork inflates, and that heat is coming out those little pinholes you see. There's a similar line of them on the opposite side. Unfortunately, nobody wants to really look at these. You have to have an open floor plan in order for this to work, because as I said a minute ago, the ductwork has to be in the conditioned space. Now, once the furnace shuts off, all that heated or cooled air is squeezed back out into the living space and being utilized. So these are very high efficiency ducting that's being used, but they have a very limited application. Pros and cons of a high efficiency: gets you 15% more heat into the home, 80 versus 95%. That equates to a much lower energy bill at the end of the year. Sealed home and a sealed combustion compartment means better, safer indoor air quality with no products of combustion that can kill you. Cons: high upfront costs of maintenance, anywhere from 25 to 40%. Additional components you may not already have but need initially. For example, you need a combustion air source. That's usually through piping. You also need a condensate drain line if you don't have one. That's going to be accomplished through piping. These are additional costs, initial costs. You only have to pay them once, but they do add up. Takes more than a label. Just saying it's high efficiency doesn't make it so. You have to look at the furnace components to determine if it is high or just mediocre. One of the easiest ways to determine if a furnace is high efficiency or not is to look for plastic venting. You are only allowed to use plastic exhaust venting on high efficiency. You cannot use them on other furnaces. Of course, that's contingent upon whether the proper venting material is used to begin with. 3 types of venting material typically found on high efficiency furnaces are PVC or ABS, S636 PVC or CPVC, polypropylene. Thank you. We're going to talk more on venting at a later date because tonight's presentation was geared on just talking about the furnaces. The venting will come up at a later time. Any questions?
I had a question about venting, but you just said that it's going to come up later, so we will have to put that off. Okay, Keith?
Thank you.
Okay, we're right on time here. We're going to invite Reuben up here in just a minute, but first, what I want to do is show us real quickly. So, if you can make me the presenter again, Sean. I want to take a quick look at. We're going to take another shot at, now that people have had a chance to register. Anybody who wasn't registered before, we're going to go ahead and send the text out to people who didn't already register. Remember, the sign in is FIRE, FIRE. And for those of you who have succeeded in registering once but thought that was kind of clumsy having to fill out that whole form, let me point out to you that you can go back to the website once again, and instead of going to the calendar, going just directly to the calendar, go over here to where it says inspectors, click right there and click join. Now, when you join here, you're not joining the chapter. That's just the way the website is set up. What you're going to do is you're going to add your name to our mailing list, and you will get a username and password. Set your username and password. So you're not joining the chapter. We're going to talk about joining the chapter at a later date. We're not going to talk about that at all today. But I would invite you to go and register yourself on the website so that now next month you won't have to fill out that form. You just fill it out once and you're done. So you go to inspectors, click join, and then you fill out this form. You'll notice that you'll have to select a membership type, which is attendee. Notice no members. So there's only one choice, but you do have to do that. And then just fill out this form. And once you've filled out that form, click the I'm not a robot thing, submit it, and now you'll be on our mailing list. You'll be reminded of upcoming events. We do not use this list for spam. All we're doing is announcing events, and now when you register, every month when you go back to register, you just log in and the form all pre-populates. It gets real easy from there. So with that, what I would like to do is to invite my good friend Reuben Saltzman. So Reuben's an interesting guy. I spent a lot of time back in the day, going back to 2003, 2004, in the early days of the internet, trying to figure out how do you generate home inspection business online. And so I spent a lot of time looking at it, thinking about it, experimenting with it. Had a certain amount of success for myself, and I went out kind of poking around the rest of the country, trying to figure out who I was succeeding in my market, but who was succeeding in other parts of the world. And first, Reuben's, what was that? Reuben, is that your brother, Neil?
I will tell my dad you asked that.
That's okay. I thought he was your father at first, but then later I started thinking he was your brother. Okay. But back in the day, Neil Saltzman was showing up on the internet in his market, and then Gary Smith was showing up in Mississippi. I actually got on the phone and started calling those guys. Hey, I noticed you're really well positioned in Google. How'd you do that? And in most cases, the people got indignant. They wouldn't answer. That's my secret. I did all that myself. But in some of these people were actually warm and open, and we ended up sharing a lot of information. And at this point, what we're going to do is let Reuben share his information with you. So, Reuben, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Sweet. Thank you, Hollis. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me out, guys. So this is all about content-driven growth and internet marketing. I'm basically going to share a lot of ideas, things that you can do online to get more business. And it's going to be tips for your website, maybe a little bit of SEO stuff here and there. I'm not the expert on SEO, but I'll share what I have done that has worked for me. I never claim to have all the answers. All I'm sharing today is what I have done that has worked. I don't claim to be a professional online marketer, whatever, but I've done a lot of things that have worked well. If you'd like a copy of any of this information, here's the link. You know, take your phone and take a picture of that or something like that, because I think I'll have about 50 slides on here. There's going to be some stuff you may want to write down, but even better yet, just go here. The entire presentation is available on Google Slides. So if I change this in the future, you'll get whatever I change. It'll be live. If I shared it properly, everybody should have access to that. I'm sure before we're done today, if it's not working, somebody will let me know. And I'm just checking the comments here. Oh, Sean just posted the comment. Thank you, Sean. Or in the comments, he posted the link. Thank you, Sean. And yeah, if it's not working, let me know. So the biggest thing I'll tell you is your website is the most important part, I'd say, of all of your online marketing. And there's a million different things, a million different places where you can go to market yourself, to get your name out there, social media, this, that, and the other. But the website should be at the center of all of this. This is what should drive the content for all of the other platforms where you put yourself out there. Now, keep in mind, your website is an investment. You get somebody to do it on the cheap, you do it yourself, it's probably going to look like you did it on the cheap or you did it yourself. Spend money on this, have it professionally done, make it look nice, and make sure it's mobile friendly. I mean, that's kind of old news. I think people are going mobile friendly with their websites 10 years ago, but I still see websites that aren't. And to know if your website is mobile friendly or not, just grab your browser window and shrink it down. And if everything just kind of stays the same size and you see less, then it's not mobile friendly. If things change and move around and text gets smaller, well, that means that it's mobile friendly. Make sure that your website is dynamic. And by that, I mean it changes. Update your website frequently. You got a website that's been the same for the last 10 years, it will show. It will look like a dated website. And make sure that you have access to it, that you can do the changes. You don't want to have to call up your nephew or you know, some family member, or heaven forbid, the website design firm who created your website for you every time you've got to change. Yeah, I make changes to my website, you know, probably daily, maybe every other day. There's always stuff I'm changing on there, like, oh, this wording isn't right. Oh, our hours changed, our pricing changed, this, that, and the other. I'm constantly updating it. This is my billboard. So make sure that you have all of that up to date. Make sure that you own it too. You should own all of the content that's on your site and the URL. If your URL, the actual address of your site, is owned by somebody else, do whatever you can to buy it. Because if some company decides to start jacking up the price on your site, there's nothing you can do about that. So make sure you have that. I have somebody ask them what platform are you using. Bruce asked what platform. And personally, I've been using WordPress for maybe the last 12 years or so. I'm in the middle of switching over to Squarespace. I'm a little worried. It took a lot of convincing to get me to switch over to that. I don't know if it's the right move or not. Ask me in a year and I'll tell you if Squarespace was worthwhile. But SEO optimized, that's kind of basic stuff. I can't give you a lot of advice there. Talk to an SEO professional on that. Put a lot of photos on there, put a lot of videos on there. Make sure that you have an About Us page on your website, something that talks about who you are. If you have other people working in your company, you got somebody answering the phones, you got multi-inspectors, make sure that you have profiles for all of them. People want to research who they're working with. My company is a multi-inspector company, and I can't tell you how many times my inspectors in the field, they come back and they say, oh yeah, they asked me about this, that, and the other that I had listed on the website. It's like they read everything about me. Your customers want to know who you are. They want to make that personal connection ahead of time. So have information about you on there. Make sure that you have a sample report on your website. I always tell people that's the biggest thing you can use to really let people know what you do. If I'm trying to pick a home inspector, I'm going to have a sample report on there. And consider doing a blog. I'll give some blogging tips in this today. The blog is the biggest thing that drives content to our site, without a doubt. And then a schedule now button. If you use ISN, you can do it through them. There's other software platforms that'll let you schedule instantly. HomeGauge, Spectora, that's all I know of off the top of my head, but there's surely a dozen others. Let people be able to schedule right away. And then another one is pricing. And if I was asking a big room, I'd want to have a discussion about this. Kind of tough to have a discussion with you guys right now. And I apologize if there's women on the class. When I say guys, I'm talking to everybody. My advice would be put your pricing on the website. I never used to do it. It was taboo. Everybody said, don't put your prices on the website, because the whole idea is that you want people to call you. And I have a business coach who tried to convince me to put pricing on our website, and he said, no, you need to do it. That's what customers want. It makes it easy to do business with you. And I said, yeah, but Stephen, you don't get it. We're different than all these other companies. We want people to call, and if I just have prices, they're going to see my price. They're going to see I'm the most expensive, and then they're going to go somewhere else, and then they're not going to hire me, and that's going to be it. He said, well, what difference does it make if they call you? I said, well, if they call, then we can explain what we do. We can teach them all of that, and we can say what sets us apart and start to establish that relationship. And he said, why don't you just make a video that does that? And I went, I don't know. and so we did. We made a video that basically comes right out, and it says exactly what we would tell people on the phone. It says, we are the most, well, you know what, I'm just going to share it with you. I'll share the video. It's short, it's sweet, it's like 90 seconds. It basically, this is what people need to look at before they can get to the pricing section on our site. Let's see, here's that video. Hopefully the audio works. I'll warn you, before you check out our prices, we are the most expensive company in town, and it's all about technology, time, and our people. While most home inspection companies ask their clients to show up for the end of the inspection, we actually encourage our clients to show up for the entire inspection. We're not afraid to have you look over our shoulder and ask questions. In fact, we encourage it. We walk all roofs, provided it's safe to do so. If we can't access a roof using a 28-foot extension ladder, we'll arrange for a free drone inspection. We have a methodical process for our home inspections, which starts at the top. Yes, we enter the attic too, and we never leave a mess. You'll notice that throughout this entire process, we didn't have our noses buried in a tablet. That's because we don't write our reports on site. We inspect. So to bring it back to price, we charge more because we're worth it. While there are no guarantees in this profession, we do guarantee your satisfaction. If you don't feel that your structure tech home inspection was worth every penny, you don't have to pay us. We have a proven process, we use the best technology, and our inspectors have some of the best training available. Schedule your home inspection online by scrolling down below this video, or if you have any questions, give our office a call. So that's our quick little sales video sharing what our process is. It's designed to take the place of people calling our office and getting prices. And the only big difference that we felt, that we noticed as soon as we put our prices online, is that people stopped calling to get a quote on a home inspection. They would just call to say, when are you available? We noticed no drop in business after putting our prices on our website. And like I said in the video, we are the most expensive company in town. I mean, I don't know what everybody in my market charges, but I've got a pretty good idea. We do a survey of our market every couple of years, and we ask all the home inspectors we can find, what do you charge for this size house? We know what our competition is charging. And yeah, we're unabashedly the most expensive, but it doesn't hurt. It's okay. We stay busy. So I'm telling you, put prices on your site if you have a way of overcoming objections. I'm a strong proponent of that. Next, other don'ts for your website. Don't say a purchase is a large investment. Everybody knows this. It's like the thing that home inspectors love to do, to remind everybody, this is the biggest purchase you'll ever make. Stop it. Everybody knows that. You don't need to say it. Don't say that you offer peace of mind. When I hear people say that they're going to offer peace of mind, what I hear is, well, maybe pandering to some people who want the deal to go through, and you're saying that you're not going to kill the deal, or telling buyers you're just going to be a soft home inspector. That's what I think of, and I think that that's what a lot of the public thinks of when they see peace of mind. You don't need to mention your SOP on your homepage. I mean, maybe you can have it buried somewhere on your website just in case people really want to figure this stuff out, but it's not going to sell you. Don't talk about being licensed and independent and all that stuff. People assume that you're a professional if you're a home inspector. You don't need to put that basic information anywhere on there unless it's, you know, maybe required by your state. Maybe then you have to, but don't make that your sales tool. Don't claim that you're the best, the most thorough. How could you possibly prove that? It's making a claim that is impossible to prove. Don't badmouth other inspectors, other associations. Talk about what makes you good. Don't badmouth other people. What can traffic do for you? For my company back in 2008, it was a 3-person company. It was me in the middle, and then it was my dad next to me, and then Dwayne on my right. It was just the 3 of us, and we would get tens of visitors a month at our website, tens of visitors. And traffic, I don't even know how people found the website, but I heard on the ASHI forums around this time that it was really good to have a blog. So I started blogging, and traffic started increasing, and all of a sudden you look at this middle graph, and we would get thousands of visitors visitors per month once I started blogging. And the number just kept increasing and increasing. And I'll just skip ahead here. Here's a really popular blog post I had about ice dams when ice dams were really bad in Minnesota. We got 23,000 visitors in the month of February. And that was a ton of traffic. That was 2011. But then you move on, you come down here, and this month that I thought was crazy was just eclipsed by normal everyday traffic without any special events. And it kept going on. And, you know, today we get hundreds of thousands of visitors at our website per day. And the company has grown to what you see today. Actually, that's an old photo. I got to get a new group photo, but we've got about 30 people in the company now. And I don't have a growth division in my company. I don't have anybody going to real estate offices. I don't have anybody calling real estate agents. We do none of that. What we do is online presence, and that's about it. We do teach continuing education classes to real estate agents, and I'll touch on that at the end. But I mean, really the big driver has been simply having a strong online presence. That's been what has driven the growth. And it's all about the blog. That's what drives our online presence. When we do Facebook posts, we always post what I'm blogging about. Tweets, I don't know how to Twitter or tweet. I don't know about that. Maybe if you do know how to do that, you could tweet out your blog posts, I think. I don't know much about that. Maybe there's other experts on that. YouTube videos, for sure. I'm going back through blog posts that I've written 10 years ago, and I'm taking those and I'm just kind of saying, all right, what's the topic? What's the content? All right, I'll make a video. And I sit at my desk and I basically talk about whatever it is that I wrote about, make it into a 5 to 10 minute video. and that's blowing up too. I mean, we have like 4,500 subscribers or whatever it is on YouTube, and it steadily increases. And I'm actually making money off of that now, which is wild. That's not the purpose. The whole purpose is to get customers, but it's driving a very small amount of revenue, probably enough to buy a hamburger every month. It's wonderful. If you do a newsletter, your blog is your newsletter content. I see so many newsletters. I'm sure you guys all get these from real estate agents and anybody else, and you'll get like the exact same content from 5 different people. They're just using the same channel that everybody else uses. It's all identical. But if you're blogging, you can have unique content, and people will want to share your content and distribute it to others. So it's another good reason to blog. And then finally, it can drive content if you decide you're going to do a podcast. And I'll touch on that before the end of this here real quickly. But that's kind of the newest thing we started doing to help drive content to our site or drive traffic to our site. The one mistake a lot of people end up making, which is what prevents them from really getting going with a blog, really sticking with it, is the idea that if you want to get hired, all you got to do is write a blog. You start blogging, and maybe after a month, people will start calling you and you'll start getting business. It doesn't work like that at all. You're missing a whole bunch of steps in the middle between blogging and getting hired. If you're going to do a blog, you need to answer questions that people have. You need to provide answers to things that people Google search on. And eventually, once you start having enough good answers, and Google indexes your site with these good answers, you will eventually get subscribers. People will subscribe to your blog, and then you start sharing your content on social media, and then other people will share your content on social media. It'll start kind of having a life of its own. You begin to build trust with the people who are reading your content, and you actually start to become an authority. And I'll explain why and how that works in a second. But once all of these things happen, then you get hired. And this is all about farming. This is all about the long game. You can't write a blog post and expect someone to see it and hire you. You're planting seeds. And I mean, our business probably didn't have any change until I had been blogging for about a year or two. I mean, traffic at our site increased, and business probably increased a little, but it wasn't a huge change until I had been doing it for a long time. And it was all a matter of being consistent, doing it every week, every Tuesday. So why do I say that blogging will make you an authority? It all has to do with how much you end up learning in the process. If you're just simply, and you guys have probably all heard or seen this learning model, where if you're just listening to somebody talk, they say you might retain 5% of it. And I feel like that number is ridiculously low. It's got to be higher than that. But we know that simply listening to somebody is going to be the worst retention rate. And as we move down this pyramid, discussion groups are much better. Practicing by doing is pretty high, but I just made my screen go. And but teaching others is the one where you really retain the most information. And if you're going to write a blog and you're going to put yourself out there and you're going to present this information as factual, you better have it right. You better do your research. And it kind of forces you to do your research, because if you write about topics and you're just plain wrong, people will bust you out, especially if you allow comments on your blog. And I recommend doing that because it provides transparency. But you start teaching others about things, and it forces you to do the research, and you really do start to become an authority on the matter. And even if not in the official sense you're an authority, you get recognized as an authority, and that can be a huge driver for business as well. Now I know what you're thinking. Okay, you're trying to tell me to do a blog, but what in the world would I even write about? There's a million things you could write about. If you're not sure and you're interested in doing something like this, pick up this book. I love this book. It's called Utility by Jay Baer. It's a light and easy read, and it's talking about exactly this. It's smart marketing. It's online content. It's educating people. It's not selling yourself. I never do that in my blog posts. It's just trying to help people. So this will give you a million ideas to get started. If you want some other ideas for topics, I'm not going to read all these, but if you download this presentation, you can check out any of these links later on. These are ways to find really good topics to write about. It's things that people are already asking about and they want answers to. And well, I'll do a really quick one. If you use Google and go in incognito mode, and if you don't know what that is, Google it. I'm not going to explain that to you in this class, but you go in incognito mode and it basically takes away any identifying information about you, and it removes any past search bias that you may have, and it shows you what the public is looking for. And do a Google search for home inspectors in my area, or in this case we'll do Maryland home inspector, and then it gives you all these suggested results. These are the top results that people search for. So if I'm in Maryland and I was thinking about writing a blog post, I might write a blog about any of these topics. Maryland home inspector classes, that might be the topic of my blog post. And then I talk about some classes that I'm going to be teaching. Well, yeah. And then just a couple writing tips, how to write good. Doesn't work in this format to have these kinds of jokes. Big winky face, haha. It's
I'm laughing. I'm laughing.
Okay, good. Thank you, Sean. Thank you. All right. I'm looking at my camera. This doesn't work well. Lots of great tips to write good. Just a little joke there. Doesn't work for this platform. But seriously, short sentences, short paragraphs, small words, make it easy to read, make it easy to understand, hopefully the same way that we write our inspection reports. You're not writing to impress people with your command of the English language. You're writing to help people understand something and come across clearly. And if you really want to know if you're doing that, shoot for a flesh reading score of 70 or higher. And now I'm using complicated words probably that nobody understands, but I'll tell you, if you write your blog post in Microsoft Word and you click at the top of Microsoft Word, you click on options, and then you click on proofing, and you go all the way down, there's a check mark, a checkbox you can check in Microsoft Word that says show readability statistics. By default, it's not checked, but you check that box, and then on the right-hand side here, it'll pop up this window showing the readability statistics. And the flesh reading score shows you how easy it is to read it. And the higher the number, the easier it is. I said shoot for a score of 70 or better. For this example document, this was my company handbook, which was written by an attorney. This is horribly difficult to understand. So I have since rewritten it. That's a good example of a blog post you would not want to publish. And if you happen to use WordPress for your website, there's a really nice plugin that you can buy. It's called Yoast. It doesn't cost much. It does all of this automatically for everything you're writing. It just gives you these statistics immediately. And then it gives you a bunch of other tips, and I won't get into all of it, but if you're going to do a blog, you got WordPress, buy Yoast. It's the best plugin. This plugin alone almost prevented me from making the switch over to Squarespace, just because I love this plugin so much. And then, like I said, write to be understood, not to impress people. Here's just an example of words that you may want to try to avoid. And I mean, I'd make the same recommendation with the way that you write your home inspection reports. Here's a bunch of words that are really simple and easy to understand, or you could replace them with more difficult, smart sounding words. Don't do that. Use the easy version of these words every time you can. And there's a longer example. Should we read all of these aloud one by one? No, just kidding. All right. Be specific with your topics. I remember when I first started blogging, I was like, all right, I'm going to blog about why you should get a home inspection and what's the difference between a home inspection and an appraisal. And And I wanted to do all these things that, you know, if you read any home inspection blog, they surely have all of these topics covered. And you're going to have a lot of competition for topics like that. There's no way you're going to rank. If you want to rank, if you want to be found, write about really specific stuff. And I'm showing you the top blog posts on my site. And I don't remember when I took the snapshot, but the most popular blog post at the time was a leaking relief valve at a water heater. It was a blog post talking about why the relief valve is leaking and what to do about it. And for whatever time period I showed the snapshot, 6.72% of my traffic for this period, over 400,000 views, it might have been a year's worth, was on that one blog post alone. The next one, moldy shower cock. Third one, this was about dishwasher drain installation errors. That made up over 4% of the traffic on my site. Who in the world would search out dishwasher drain installation errors? Apparently a lot of people. It was a very popular post. The more specific you are, the higher it's going to rank for that search. And don't worry about only appealing to a small amount of people. The people who are looking for what you're writing about will really appreciate it. So you get some random question from your client like, hey, what's that doohickey up there and what does it do? You know, what's the sprinkler sensor? Write a blog post about it. Research sprinkler sensors and how they work and how the water will shut it off for this period of time, and take a bunch of pictures of different ones, and you'll be an authority on that topic. So be specific. A few more tools. I already talked about WordPress and Yoast. Grammarly is one of my favorite plugins as well. That's just something that goes on your Google Chrome browser, and it tells you when you misspell words and you have grammar issues and all kinds of stuff. It's constantly checking your writing, but it won't help you write well.
I'm laughing again.
All right, thank you, Sean. Sean,
what platform do you use for blogging?
I have been using WordPress, but it's going to switch over to Squarespace.
Gotcha.
Why?
Because my website person talked me into it. They know more about it than I do, and he insisted that it's going to be much easier for me to make design changes. And if I want to do a whole design redo on my site, it should be pretty quick and easy. And he was quite confident that while my site will take a hit in Google traffic, it's not going to be a huge hit, and it will recover fairly quickly. And I trust him. So ask me a year from now if it was a good idea. We'll see. And I still own the domain name. So let's see here. So for some basics on blog posts, think about what people are going to search. Don't use clickbait posts. A clickbait topic would be, don't block this opening or you could die. If you want good long-term search results, your post would be called combustion air ducts. When people see it on a list of blog posts you've written, they surely won't click on that as much because, you know, it doesn't have any sizzle. But when people are looking for that topic and they see that title, they will click on it. So don't, you know, again, we're going for the long game here. We're not going for clicks. So be specific with your keywords. Don't dilute. Don't use like 20,000 keywords for every blog post. Write what the post is about for your keywords, and that's it. If you don't know what a keyword is, well, it's I don't have time for it here. Save this. When you start a blog, come back and review this again. I got too much other stuff to talk about. We're going till 8:30, right? Or 9:30 your time, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right. So as far as word count goes, I'd say there is no magic number. 500 words is a good start. It's usually what I shoot for. I've heard that Google will rank things higher when you have more words. I don't know that for certain. This is just what I've heard anecdotally. I've read that on a bunch of sites, but I also don't like the idea of using more words than you need to convey a topic. If you can, if you've got something short and sweet and you can say it in 200 words, well, write a 200-word blog post. Maybe have a bunch of pictures. Content is king. It's all about having good content. That's really what Google likes. And don't cheat on it. Don't try to get fake subscribers. Don't try to copy other people's content. Google will penalize you. It needs to be original content. And when you're writing your posts, a big piece of advice, I made this mistake early on, is I would be writing about something and I'd go, oh, you know, I'm talking a lot about combustion air ducts, and heat recovery ventilators affect that. And if I'm going to bring up heat recovery ventilators, I should explain what those are in this post too. Now I'm diluting my post. Now I really have two different topics. And it's really tempting to just make something really long and explain a bunch of different stuff, but don't do that. Chop it into 2 posts, so 3 posts, or 4 posts, and split it all up, and it'll save you work in the future. Now you've got your next 4 blog posts all taken care of. Be consistent with it. You know, for me, I do it every Tuesday, whatever it is. Hold yourself accountable, or find somebody else to hold you accountable. And I mean, that's really the most important thing, is to be consistent. Don't have any secrets about it. Don't think that you're special. I talked to Hollis talked about this right when he started this, and I appreciate what he said, because I ran into so many home inspectors who I'd say, hey, can I, and this was just trying to find somebody for a family member outside of Minnesota. And I'd talk to so many home inspectors and say, hey, can I get a copy of your sample report? I couldn't find it on your website. And they're like, nah, that's my content. That's my lifeblood. I'm not sharing my report with other people. And it's like, what are you thinking? You're not special. Anybody can do this. We just want to see what it is that you do. So lose the mindset that people are going to steal your content. As long as you're coming up with new stuff and you're doing a good job, people won't catch you. Go ahead and recycle blog posts. I just told you I'm recycling all of my old posts and making them into video posts. And as I do that, I'm reposting them from 5-10 years ago, whatever it was. I'm updating the content a little bit, and I'm just posting it again. I do the same post every fall.
You know, Reuben, I don't, excuse my interruption, but you reminded me of, or I guess I'm finding myself reminded of, you know, of back in the day when we collectively were trying to figure this stuff out, you know, when Google became a household term, and some people don't remember before Google, but I had a paper brochure that I had had it professionally designed. It was a very nice, but it was a piece of paper because the internet didn't exist. And I took it around real estate offices. So when I created my first website, what I did is I stole my own content off my paper brochure, and I put it on. I made each panel of the brochure a page on my new website, and then I started Googling to see Googling myself to see where I was in the search results. And one day only like a couple of weeks after I'd put it up, I Googled like some of the phrases in the content of my website to see if Google had indexed this stuff. And I found where someone had completely stolen all of the content. It had different graphics, but it was exactly word for word my website.
Oh yeah, Hollis, I've got a folder full of sites that have stolen my content. It happens all the time. You wouldn't believe how much plagiarism there is out there. And I just kind of shrug. It doesn't hurt me, I feel. I mean, I know technically you have too much duplicate content. In theory, Google could lower your ranking, but I've never lost any sleep over it, and I've never pursued any of it. And to the best of my knowledge, I've never been affected by it. I'm on to the next blog post. So okay, so I'm not going to go over all the rest of this, but one thing I do want to mention at the end, because there's a question here. Keith asks, how many hours am I investing in all of this stuff? And for each blog post I write, I'd say I probably spend about 1 to 3 hours writing per week. For the rest of the content, you know, sharing in all these other places, pretty much nothing. I mean, I'll share a photo. Well, I'll get to Facebook in a second, but it's about 1 to 3 hours a week. And I have this, I don't know if my camera's on, but I have this on my wall right back here. I always have time for what's important. I always remind myself of that. And we all have the same amount of time every week. We just have different priorities. And if you tell yourself it's important to make this content, to get your phone to ring, to update this on a weekly basis, you will make time for it. A few other things that I recommend reading. One is, well, I already said Utility by Jay Baer. A few other books. I'm not going to go over all these things. This is all fantastic marketing stuff. If you don't already have an Audible subscription, get an Audible subscription and just listen to these books while you're driving between inspections. You will be on fire to start a blog by the time you're done with a few of these. And I know the thing, people say you don't have time. Oh wait, I forgot I put the slide in here. This is what I just got done saying. Let's see if there's anything I forgot to say. Oh, at the bottom, it's not about, this is a book I just finished reading. It was Atomic Habits. And there was a good quote. He said, it's not about getting amped up to produce content every day. It's about being willing to produce content every day, even though you might be bored with it. So just do it. That's really what it comes down to. And a lot of people stop doing it because they get bored with it and they want to move on to something else, but be consistent. So what if your content sucks? What if nobody likes it? Great quote from Reid Hoffman, founder of LinkedIn. He said, if you're not embarrassed by the first version of your product, you've launched too late. I love that. And, you know, don't worry if it sucks, because I'll tell you, when you first start writing or doing videos or whatever, nobody's watching it anyway. Nobody's reading anything you write anyway. So it doesn't matter. So it's okay at first if it sucks. Just get going with it. And done beats perfect. And first always beats best. So get out there and get it done and worry about perfecting it later. So for Facebook, excuse me, we share our stuff on there. Anytime I write a blog post, of course, we share it on Facebook. We share videos on Facebook. And best advice I could give you there is be helpful. If you're always posting about, hey, look, another one of our inspectors got a 5-star review, or call us, we have openings this week, or we've got a $50 off coupon this week. That's a great way to never have people return to your Facebook page ever again. What you want to do is share helpful information, educate people. Here's a good example of just helpful information. True or false? All it takes to properly size a unit is square footage. Maybe people believe that. And then they've got a little bit more information, and call us if you want more info. It's a little bit salesy for my taste, but still it is helpful information. I track our website traffic. Facebook lets you do this. I'm not going to get into exactly how you do this. You can Google this if you want to, but if you want to see what to do on Facebook, my advice would be compare your page to other pages. Facebook lets you do this. It's all built in. It says, I want to compare my page and which ones you want to compare. And they'll give you a bunch of suggestions of home inspector pages. And then click on the other home inspector pages and see what other competitors are posting and do something similar. Here's a good example. This Vigilant Home Inspections. This guy's out of Iowa. This guy's killing it. And this screenshot I'm showing you here, this is from January. He's probably surpassed my page, my Facebook page at this point, because I mean, look at this. 27 posts a week. He's absolutely killing it. He's posting jokes I don't even get on here. Look at this photo. The fridge is filled with ice. It's like, that's awesome. We started doing Wordless Wednesday on our Facebook page. I just share a photo, no words, and it was great. It quickly became the most popular content that we would share on Facebook every Wednesday. And I've started seeing other home inspectors doing the same thing, posting their Wordless Wednesday photos. And I love it. It doesn't take anything away from what I'm doing. They're not ripping me off. It's none of that. It's just sharing fun stuff online. So look at what your competitors are doing and do the same thing. I see a quick question. Do you cross-post your stuff or write different ones for the different platforms? I cross-post, and the question is, do I change up the content for different places where I'm putting it? It's the same thing everywhere I go. Maybe I'm lazy. I guess if I worked harder, I would change the content and I would make it original, but no, I write one blog post and I share the exact same thing everywhere. And if someday that stops working, then I'll start changing up the content. But until then, it's working just fine. So that's all I have for the online portion of blogging, and that was 3/4 of this, but I got a few other things to talk about quickly, just getting in front of people online. In Minnesota, we got a stay-at-home order on the 25th of March, and I sent a mass email through ISN. If you don't know ISN, well, I guess all you need to know is I sent a mass email to real estate agents, all the agents who use us on a regular basis, just communicating with them, hey, we know there's a stay-at-home order, here's what's going on with us, here's where we're at. I recorded a video and I sent it all out to them saying, hey, we're still open for business, here's what we're doing to stay safe, yada, yada, yada. And to date, it was the highest open rate of any email we've ever sent. If you track open rates on your mass emails, you probably don't get very high open rates. Nobody does, but this was the highest one we've ever had. It was, over 2/3 of the agents who got it thanked us for it or read it. And I had a ton of agents send very nice thank yous, like, thank you for the information. We like knowing what's going on. It was a great video. Thank you for the positive message. Usually when we send out mass emails to real estate agents, there's always like 2 or 3 just really crappy emails. Like, who are you? I hate you. Don't ever email me again. How'd you get my name? And these are agents that we've done inspections for. So that was very well received. And it goes back to the point I made earlier. Done beats best. Just get it done. I didn't, I only had a couple hours to get this all perfected and the video done and all that, but we did it, we sent it out, and it was good. Of course, let your website do its job. Don't have people calling you saying, hey, are you still open for inspections? And this advice would be a little bit more relative 2 months ago when nobody had any idea what was going on throughout the country. But I mean, right away, we put a little blip at the top of our website saying we're still open for business. Here's what we're doing for COVID-19. You've seen a million other businesses do this, I'm sure. You should be doing the same. You should be having a banner on your site today. Put it on there tomorrow if you don't already have it, saying what you're doing to keep your customers and everybody else safe for COVID-19. People are looking for this information. The other thing that we've done to get business is teaching continuing education classes to real estate agents. After I've been blogging for many years, I had enough agents saying, this is good content in your blog. We'd like you to teach this in person. And I basically had people beating down our door to teach CE classes. So we started offering 1, turned into 2, then 3. Now we've got 5 classes that we teach. But of course, COVID hit and we couldn't teach those anymore. This is what we used to have on our site, saying we'll come to your office and we'll teach. And here's what our calendar looked like in February. We had all these classes that we're teaching in all these different real estate offices. And then, boom, April, calendar's cleared. Nothing. We had to cancel every class everywhere because nobody's meeting in person. Nobody's doing squat. And we said, well, what do we do? Because we got agents like, hey, I still need my CE. I was planning to come to your class. What can you do for me? We went digital. And we switched our classes to GoToWebinar, exactly like I'm doing for you guys right now. And we ended up getting state approval, and we pushed hard to get this done quickly. I mean, as soon as we realized we couldn't do this, it was all right, get with the state, submit new classes, teach these online. We sent out 1 mass email in ISN with a header that said free online CE classes. And we offered all these different classes. where people could register, a lot like you guys do for this. We posted on Facebook, ton of agents shared it. We're using GoToWebinar. I don't need to sell you guys on GoToWebinar. You know how this works. And when we were teaching classes in person, the minimum attendees I would require, if I'm going to come to your office, if I'm going to drive across town and teach a CE class, you need to have at least a dozen agents there. I don't want to teach to 3 people. And sometimes I'd show up and I wouldn't even have a dozen people. It'd be like 8 people. And they go, well, yeah, sorry, we thought we'd have more. Yeah, it's okay. I'll teach anyway. So we'd want to have at least 12 people. With the new GoToWebinar, as soon as we sent that out, we had to implement a maximum. We set a maximum of 250. Our classes filled up like that. I mean, instantly, everything filled up. And we were teaching classes to 250 people at a time, twice a week. And we had to double the amount of classes that we were offering because so many people were complaining that our classes were all full. And there's what the new schedule looked like. We ended up doing them on Wednesdays and Thursdays. And we had thousands of attendees come through. There's a quick little graph of just, what is this? This is part of April where we're teaching a few classes to people. So that was huge. I'd say, well, this is just tracking information. I'd say if you're interested in teaching classes to real estate agents, figure out an online platform to do it. You can reach so many more people doing it this way, and you don't have to leave your house. It is fantastic. And the question here says, does Minnesota regulate real estate CE classes? Yes, absolutely. You need to be a licensed education provider in Minnesota to do this, and every one of your classes needs to be approved by the state. And they say that once we submit our class, they'll get it approved within 30 days. But they were able to kind of bend the rules a little bit and get things approved a little faster. But the approval process is a nightmare. It took me many years to get approved as an instructor, to get licensed. I almost hired an attorney to fill out the paperwork. It was such a pain in the butt, but I decided it was important. So that's why we pursued it. But for teaching classes of that size, it gets nuts. Just like for this presentation right now, I've heard Sean kind of moderating this. You got Hollis working on it in the background. You cannot teach a class with that many people by yourself. You need to have somebody helping you. For us, for all the longer classes, I had me and Tessa, another home inspector in my company. It was both of us teaching these classes every time because we teach 4-hour classes, and that's a marathon. It'd be nice to kind of throw it back and forth. Tell your staff, if you're going to be doing stuff like this, whoever answers the phones at your company, tell them to prepare. We would get just a flood of phone calls and emails saying, hey, GoToWebinar doesn't work. I can't turn my mic on and I can't get in and blah, 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 blah. And you would get a lot of questions. And then I found the more eyeballs, the more people see stuff. It's kind of, I think they call it the YouTube effect. No, I just made that term up. The more people that are there, the more, or the less reserved people are. And the more inclined they are to just pop off and say whatever they want, even when they're getting free continuing education classes. What I have on the screen here, this Reuben is horrible at explaining this. It's like listening to a pinball machine talk. That showed up in the comments, like people just writing comments, and it's like, I can see your name, I know who you are. And I remember reading that while I'm in the middle of talking, and I just kind of stopped, I stared at it, and then I continued talking. But people will say crazy things when they think that you don't notice. So be prepared for that if you're going to be teaching large classes. And then I'll skip the rest of that. And then the last thing I'll mention is consider starting a podcast. That has surely been one of the easiest things we've done. I mean, compared to blogging, the podcast is just about nothing.
You guys sound like you're having fun with that podcast.
Have you listened, Hollis?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Sweet. If you want to hear it, you go to it's structuredtalk.com. is where we've got our podcast, and it's me, Tessa, and Bill, 3 home inspectors, and they're usually about 20 to 30 minutes long. We were recording them at somebody's studio for a long time, but then COVID hit, and we just started recording them via Zoom. Or if you use GoToWebinar, you can do it that way. And the audio quality isn't quite there. It's not as good, but nobody mentioned anything. I mean, it's not like it's horrible. Just get a decent microphone and record all the audio, and then maybe find somebody who could professionally edit it for you if you like. If not, if you like the way it all sounds, just take your recording and upload it to some platform. We happen to use Anchor. I don't know if it's even listed here. No, I don't see Anchor on the screen. I didn't put it on the screen. It's Anchor Podcast, and I upload it to that one platform, and it syndicates it to all of these other platforms. And it's the easiest thing we do. And I've gotten more response out of this podcast than just about anything we've ever done. So as far as bang for your buck, this has been pretty cool. Now, I don't know if it works the same way that Google does. I can't really attribute any home inspection business to this, but I've had a lot of people listen to it, and yeah, it's been good feedback. And that's it. I cut a bunch of this stuff out because I thought it was too long, but I guess I had a couple of extra minutes. If you want this content, again, there it is. You can click on this link to find this presentation, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that anybody has. I saw there was a handful of comments that came up in the chat that I didn't get to, or you could just pipe up if you have any questions.
I think Alex was just over there being a smart aleck.
I was going to boot him.
Yeah, watch your back, Alex. Any questions for Reuben? Comments?
Billy Borner, this was way early on. Billy suggested not going to Squarespace, especially if you're positioned well on Google. And he thought about doing the same, and his programmers all stated no. And yeah, I was worried about it. I've done a lot of research on it, and you might be right. Maybe my ranking is going to tank. I sure hope it's not. I've talked to a lot of people about this, and I've done a lot of research, and I keeping my fingers crossed. But if it tanks, I'll let you know, Billy. So for anybody else thinking about it, it's a risk. It's a risk. Bruce asked, how long did it take to learn to edit my platform? It happens slowly. I mean, doing the basic stuff, just changing the words on your website, it's about as difficult as using Microsoft Word and opening up a Word document and changing the words on there and then saving it. That's about how difficult it is to change the content on your website. You just need someone to show you how to do it the first couple of times. And then you start getting fancier and you go, well, what about if I add a photo here? And then your whole page disappears and you go, oh, that wasn't right. I screwed that up. Don't save it. That's all. So you can play with it. Let's see. Sean says, I hope you paid the stars in your video. The redhead there in that video, she was not an employee of the company. She is a professional actor, actually. And she didn't charge me much. So somebody I know. It's a friend. So she did it just about for free. What else do we got here? All right, I think, oh yeah, Alex says I'm horrible at explaining this. Good stuff.
Yeah, smart aleck. So
That's
Reuben,
great.
you're coming back in a couple of weeks, right?
I don't know, am I?
You're on the calendar. I appreciate you stepping in at the last minute today because we were supposed to have another speaker who ended up, I ended up getting my signals crossed. And so Reuben, want to give him a round of applause here for stepping in at the last minute, saving the day. But if we were planning on having you come back to talk about ice dams, what, in two months? Is that what it is? I have to look at the calendar.
Sounds good.
Yeah, but
I'll be, oh yeah, I got it. That's on Wednesday, September 2nd.
yeah,
Yep.
2 months.
Ice dams
Yeah.
and attic moisture.
Month after next.
I can't wait.
You're gonna have to.
Sounds good.
That's the way time works.
All right,
Okay.
man.
Anything else for Reuben while we got him here? All right. Well, thanks, Reuben. We sure appreciate you and all you bring to the home inspection uh, profession, all you bring to ASHI, all the effort you put in, and frankly, what I've found is that when I'm trying to figure out something technical, I start Googling it, and some, I don't know, 20, 25%, 30% of the time, your one of your posts will pop up in a search result, and that will be the one that's easy to understand. It's the one that I can
Sweet.
count on. It's like, there it is. It's right there. He explained it was exactly what I was wondering. He obviously did the research that I should have done, but didn't have to because he did it for me. And there it is. And now I can move on and write my report or report to my client or answer the question or understand it next time I see it or whatever it is. So it's I appreciate you. I really do.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Hollis. Big hug.
Virtual hug.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Anybody else? We are going to take a 2-minute break, and we're going to sign out. We got to send out. We got to send the sign out. So the sign out. You making me the presenter again? Lost track of what we're doing here. Having too much fun. So the sign out token is works. Fireworks. WORKS. So everyone should be getting a text message right about now, and you will tap on the link, and you will tap into that field. You will type works, WORKS, sign out, and there you go. I'm signed out, and I should now check and see if I get another text message, and that text message should be a link to the certificate, and if I tap on that, I should have my certificate any second now. Come on, baby. Well, it'll be there any second now. There it is. Okay, I have my certificate. So save those certificates. If you lose track of them, you can find them on the website if you've registered. When I say there are two reasons for you to join. One is so that you get notifications of upcoming meetings. The next was to make it easier to register for upcoming meetings, but also all of your certificates are archived. We can't archive them if we don't know who you are. So if you register on the website, then your certificates will be archived. So if you ever get audited by the state or you need a copy of your certificates, there they are. Mark your calendar for August 5th. Richard Weldon of Carson Dunlop Weldon. Richard's been teaching the class on commercial inspections. He's a really good speaker. He's a very well-informed guy. He knows a lot about buildings. I'm trying to remember what the topic was. I remember talking to him about it, and frankly, I don't remember what the topic is. But I'll get in touch with him this week and make sure we get all that posted on the website. But I guarantee it'll be a good, interesting, and worthwhile presentation. So don't miss that. And we're doing more and more of maybe doing 2 a month. So check back. We may very well have something coming up on the third Wednesday. This is the first. Well, it certainly won't be next Wednesday, the second, but the third Wednesday, very likely, we will have we're not guaranteed yet, but we're trying to work something out to be able to give us 2 a month during the while things are slow because of the COVID, so we can take advantage of the downtime to get ourselves better educated. So there we go. That's the OMG for July. Mark your calendar for August 5th. We'll take a 2-minute break and we will reconvene for the meeting after the meeting post haste. Thank you all for coming. Thanks, Reuben. Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, Reuben.
Thanks, Sean. Be right back. Anybody's going to hang around, turn on your camera so we can see you. All right, who's still here? I'm talking to people here. So who's still here? Anybody?
I'm here.
14 people still here? Whoa! Bruce is here.
We're going to ask you a question.
What do you guys want to talk about?
How is this pandemic affecting all you guys in the other states?
Am I muted or something? What's going on?
No, I heard you, Bruce.
Can you hear? I couldn't talk through the mustache.
Oh, we heard you.
You guys seeing a lot of
You guys talking? I
slowdown?
can't hear anybody. Is anybody here?
Can you hear me now?